My next topic is object model reference. Object model reference is one of the most important component of the QTP. So QTP treats himself as object. That is QTP test dot application. This is the object class name. The class name of that object is QTP test under dot quick test dot application. Sorry. Quick test dot application is the class name of QTP as an object. So the entire QTP, he treats himself as an object and declares with a class name QTP quick test dot application. That is the class name of QTP object. Using this class, what are all I can do? Now when you open the QTP, what you see in that? Now you can see file, you can see all this new, open, save, save as, etc. All these are separate object. So setting is an object method. This comes under settings under QTP. I can open a file. When I open a file, the opened test itself is an object. For example, I open it as an action parameter. The open test itself is an object because once I open it, I can now have action. Action is an object. Under action, action properties is another collection. Action call properties is another collection. Call properties are called runtime settings, run settings. Action properties are action properties. Under action properties, I can create parameters. I can use parameters. So these are all collections. This is what defined in your QTP quick test dot application class. Once I have this class has set of methods and objects. Methods include I can launch QTP, I can make it visible, I can open the test. I am just giving what we regularly use. I need to launch a QTP, so I need a launch as my method. I want QTP to be launched. Second, I want it to be visible to the audience, that is users, so I want to make it as visible. Visible is the property that I like to make it as true. If it is true, it is visible for the end user. If it is false, it is not visible for the end user. I like to open the test. I have open as my method. So open the test, I can open is the method. I give the test name. These three are bare minimum we use in our day-to-day. Since QTP itself is an object, there are several methods, objects available within QTP. Those information, please take the help from here. I go to help. How we need more help of QTP objects? You go here under QTP advanced references, QTP process automation, object model diagram. This is how the QTP objects look like. This is my application object that you see. Under application object, I have a test object. Under test object, I have following things. And then I have a second line. Under application object, I have options. Under application object, I have TDC connection, that is quick test connection. Under application, I have business component. I am using the tags that is connected to the first line. First line tags are directly connected to the application object. So whatever is under application, I can manage it through that class. These are all my objects. All blue colors are objects. All yellow colors are methods. It can be collection of methods. It can be a single method. So blue colors are objects. Now application, if I want to go into settings, I need a test object without test objects I cannot get into settings. This is what the indicator is. This is how you need to read that diagram. So the diagram clearly indicates what all comes under which class. Application is the class, test is the class, setting is the class. Under application, test class presence, under test, setting class presence. This is nothing but test settings. You can see now under test what are all available. You can see that settings, and then the second line data table is also under test, last run results is under test, environment is under test, parameter definition is under test, actions is under test, add new action is under test. You can see these are all available under test as a class. So test class has these following next hierarchy information. Next, all the yellow colors, as I said, it is nothing but collections, methods. And this parameter definition has another object called parameter definition. So parameter definition as a method, this has parameter definition as another class inside. So this is how he has mapped his class. So QTP itself is a class, and inside QTP we are going inside each of the diagram. Now I don't want to confuse you with all. You go ahead inside that help. If I want resources, I can get inside resources. You get what are all the methods available, what are all the properties for that method with an example he has given. You cannot get better help than this, right? Now I use simple thing so that you understand what we are trying to do. Now we are getting into QTP. I declare now QTP app is my object. So I create that object QTP app equals create object, and this object is quick test dot application. Please note, I cannot change QTP dot application because that is not the way the class name is defined. Class name is quick test dot application. Now when I put QTP app dot, you can see the IntelliSense, and IntelliSense says what all you can do now. First is I want to launch QTP now. Launch is the method. If once launched, what I need to do? I need, by default, launch is visibility is false. I want visible property, and I may treat it as true. True is a visible is a Boolean type. So I am making it visible now. So that means it launches QTP and makes it visible for the end user. Please note, I am not going to run this from QTP itself. I am going to run this through external VBS file. Now what I want to do now, I like to run the test. So I need to open the test. So QTP app dot open. I like to open my test. Let me open the test. I need to know the path of the test. So I go to my computer. I go to online class is the location. Script is the location. I like to open action parameter is my script. So I now open this script here. Put it in quotes. So now I opened it. With this open, what do you want to do? Now since test is an object, I need to treat, I say QTP test as my object. So QTP test as my object equals, I put that opened application over here, QTP app.test. App.test is holding the opened application. Now I am transferring that opened application to the test object. So why I am doing it? Because I like to do some of the changes to this test object. What are all changes I can do? I can set the parameters. I can create new actions as well. I can do whatever I like to do using this test object. Currently what I like to do is I like to run the script. That's all. I don't want to do anything. I like QTP to run this script. So it is available under test option. I need to run it. So I use now method called .run. After run, what do you want to do? I want to quit this QTP. Quit app quit. I have just quit this QTP. Just 3 or 4 lines just for us to understand introduction to the object model. If time permits tomorrow, we will see how to use parameters, etc. Now what we did is I've opened the QTP as a quick test.application. I put it onto a object where QTP app. Using that QTP app, I'm launching the application. Using this QTP app, I'm making the QTP visible, and then I'm opening the test from that application. This test can come from external file as well. So we can see that next. Then once the test is open, I now treat it as an object because I need to run the test, and then I quit the QTP. Now this I put it under, even though I save the script as QTP object model. Now I save this as a notepad because I need to execute this script through VBS file. Now I save this file, save as. I'll go to desktop. I save this file as my QTP launch file, right? .vbs. VBS is important, otherwise it is not executable. I cannot use QFL, I cannot use .txt because I like to execute this VBS through Microsoft. So I now save it. My job is done. I close the QTP now. So now you notice how QTP is launched, how QTP is managed by my VBS file. Now I come back to the desktop. Everything is closed. You can notice in my tray window there is no QTP now. Now I am going to click this VBS QTP launch. QTP launch is my VBS. I am going to click on it. As I click, you can notice now QTP is being launched. You can notice now QTP is being launched. Now you can see that QTP is launched now. Once QTP is launched, he is opening that action parameter file and now executing this file. Unfortunately, I have not opened the flight reservation. Let me open the flight reservation as well. So if he is able to open it, he will not generate an error. Yeah, now he's opened it. I opened manually this. Then he is executing on that application. Once he executes, he now comes back. These are all the models. We use it in our framework. This also we call it as a run logic. I am invoking QTP through external script. Now he is able to run the script. He came out of the script. He has finished the run. That's all. How simple it is, you see. Right? So we now used VBS file to launch the QTP. My next stage is, right, what I would like to do is, I decided that action parameter, the script that I decided to run, I hard coded in my script. Instead of hard coding, I like these files in an Excel file or in a notepad. In my case, there is no Excel. So I open another notepad. In this notepad, I give which script to run, which script not to run. So now action parameter, I put it here. this script I like to run. Along with the path I am giving, if I like to run, I say yes. If I don't want to run, I say no. Action parameter I like to run. Analog recording, no. I like to then use database output value I like to run. So I put this because my base state I have to be careful. Somewhere we use reusable action where the flight reservation is not present. So any script that you want to run, you can put it under that parameter. So anything multiple objects, I ignore it. So descriptive programming I like to run. Descriptive programming, it closes the application as well. Because it is already existing application, he will close, he will reinitiate that application. Now I like this three script one after another. I want QTP to run. So this is my run logic. All my scripts I can put it here. I decide which script I would like to run, which script I don't like to run. I don't like to run database output value, I put it as no. Right? Now I save this file. Under my computer, I have to go into the path, online class, data. Inside the data, I make it as run logic. Run logic is my txt file. And this txt file has two informations. One information is the path of the file name. Another information whether you want to run this file or not. I save this. I close it. Now I come back to QTP. I am extending that launch file. I am extending that launch file to manage script name from Notepad. I like him to iterate through. Please note, I am not using QC here. I am using object model of QTP. Right? I open the same where what we have already created, that is called QTP object model. In this script, I am enhancing this script. So this script, what I now like to do, I need to read from the file. So if I have to, once QTP is launched, I need to read from the file, right? And then go through all the contents in the file, execute. So how to read from the file? Again, now I am using FSO, F1 dot. So I need to declare it F1 and F2. One is for work scripting dot file system object. F2 is for opening the file. F1 dot create object within bracket scripting dot file system object. Second, I like to open the file. When I like to open the file, F1 dot open text file, where the file is, location of the file, it is under data. Under data, my run logic is my file name. It is a txt file. So you give the path slash run logic dot txt file, followed by how do you want to open? I want to open in read only mode. 1 is for reading, 2 is for writing, 8 is for append. From this I like to read line by line. So I say do while or until, both are fine. Do while. F2 dot at end of line is not equal to 2. I like to run this. After running, what do you want to do? I need to retrieve the first line. So where 1 equals read F2 dot read line. This read line has two informations. One, it has a file path for the script that we like to execute. Second, we have whether it has to be executed, yes or no. So var one holding two information. So I need to split now this var. So using comma as a delimiter, I like to split, and that split I give it as a name array equals split var1. Why you want to split? Because one array element will have a file name, another array element will have whether this file needs to be run or not. So now I split. Now array ARR is an array element which is holding now two elements. One element is the file name, second element is the whether that file needs to be executed or not. Now I'll say file name equals array1 is my file name. Array1 0. Array first element is my file name array 0. Then run stat equals array1. This is for your understanding. I am splitting this as a two variables. One is file name as a variable, another is run stat as my variable. If run stat equals yes, then I now like him to open QTP. Otherwise, I don't want him to open QTP. If run stat is yes, I like him to open QTP, right? So do while I'm putting it over here. End if is supposed to be inside. Now I copy this, put it into the coding standard. Now if I open this, I like him to run the script, otherwise I don't want him to run the script, right? So if run stat is y, then you open that file. So which file you want to open? It is not now action parameter. I'll say file name. So file name need to be opened, assign it to the object, run that file, then end if, then go into the loop. File by file you go, line by line you go inside the file, execute the file, end you quit that file. So this is how now we modified our QTP object model execution. Now this is under script execution. I am executing the script through run logic. That run logic, now notepad if I change, it is sufficient. I decide there which file to be executed, which file need not be executed. And accordingly I take the report. Now I can enhance this into a report. We will see that in our project mode. How I enhance it into multiple reports. Now it is an introduction to object model. I should not run this from here. I save this. I copy this, put it onto the notepad now. So I edit now. I am putting now inside this, I am putting that entire script here. So logic, make sure that the logic is right before you execute the file. So logic is first I opened the quick test. Up to this not an issue. I created a file system object. Using file system object I am opening the run logic file. Run logic file can have a single file. It can have a many files with the status run status. That status is splitted by comma. So I am reading the first line, splitting that, putting it into an array. Using that array I am assigning the file name as one, the first element putting onto the file name. Run second element is run status. If run status is yes, then only I am getting into the QTP. If run status is no, I am not getting inside the QTP. This is what I like to do. All other settings remain same. I now like to execute the file. I close the QTP now. I come back to, for all this I need my base state, and that base state needs to be open application. I'm keeping it as it is. I now click on launch QTP. In the run logic, we have noticed the second file we are made it as no. So we see how it gets executed. What we need to ensure is how the file is, now it is onto the run mode, how the file you are parameterizing. Now action parameter is the first script, that is perfectly fine. Second, I think database, but database we made it as no, so it should not run. We should run the descriptive programming. Descriptive programming will close the existing application and it will rerun the file. So that is what we expect him. Now you can see he is opening the descriptive programming or not. You can see he is opening the descriptive programming. You can, I think you are able to notice that under the QTP title. Now he closed. He is now executing with the password. He is now enter file reservation. He has finished now the job. So he quit because he has finished his job. You can see now how effectively we are able to manage through QTP object model. This is what object model. This is an introduction. We'll see more of this in our framework.